Hello, I'm Jim Baca with Southwestern Line Constructors. This video is to teach you how to remember Ohm's Law and all of its formulas. The tricks to Ohm's Law is not to sit down and try and memorize the formulas, but to remember a story. And the story goes like this. The story starts with Joe Lyman. So Joe Lyman's been working the coast of California for the past 30 years. After 30 years of working, he's been saving up his money and decided to buy a piece of property down in Baja, Mexico. As he's enjoying his leisurely time there in Baja, Mexico, he's overlooking the ocean. He looks off to the left and he notices this pier. The pier's all broken down and messed up, and he thinks, you know what, if I'm going to be sitting here for the rest of my life and my retirement, that pier, it's got to look good. Lyman, being prideful as we are, we make sure everything looks good. So he decides he's going to put in a call down at the hall and bring out 2 more linemen. Puts in a call for 2 more linemen. 2 linemen show up to the job. Joe Lyman explains to the other 2 linemen, explaining to them that, I'm sitting here, this pier's got to look good, and, we're going to go ahead and fix this pier. So the first thing they got to do is they got to set all the poles. And after they set all the poles, once your pole is set, you got to hang all the cross arms. As they're going to hang all the cross arms here on the job, they get to the very last cross arm, and Joe Lyman has cross arm thrown over his shoulder, and he's swings it around, and when he swings it around, it hits Fred Lyman right square in the nose. Blood's gushing everywhere, and it's get up and go time. So Joe Lyman and Fred Lyman both decide to head to the ER. Joe goes to the ER, and Fred goes to the ER. They get to the ER. Nurse Betty looks everything up, patches up the nose, says, "Fred, you're fine. You're good to go back to work. You guys head back to work." So on their way back to the job site, Joe Lyman decides, why don't we stop and have lunch? We're going to have a sit-down. So they decide to have a sit-down. They sit down, they have lunch, they enjoy the lunch. At the end of lunch, the waitress comes out and says, did you enjoy your lunch? Would you like some dessert? Maybe a piece of pie. And Joe Lyman says, man, I'd love a piece of pie. Fred Lyman says, you know what, I'll enjoy a piece of pie myself. So they both have a piece of pie. They finish their dessert, they head back to the job. When they get back to the job, Johnny Lyman's been working the whole time, and the last thing he's got to do is the punch list, just kind of to square up the ends of it. And as he squares up the ends, we realize that our pier is complete. And the 3 gentlemen are sitting there on the edge of the pier, overlooking the ocean. As they overlook the ocean, they see a surfer on a surfboard riding a wave. Of course, obviously, when we're in Mexico, we don't speak Spanish. What do? We add an O to everything. So instead of riding a wave, they're riding a wave-o. The advantage of putting wave-o down there is when we see the letter P, we identify that as power, and it's measured in watts. And I is current, which is measured in amps. E is electromotive force, measured in volts. And R is resistance, measured in ohms. Now the advantage to all this when we're talking about this story and remembering this story is now that I've got my pier complete, when I want to find a formula for one of these variables, all I got to do is go to my pier up on top and cover the letters of what I'm looking for. So if I want to find all the formulas for power, I'll cover P in all the wheels, and that gives you my formulas. Now to remind you, if 2 variables are side by side, we multiply them. If they're above and below, we divide them. Now when I want all formulas for current, I'm going to cover the I. Now if you notice in the last formula there, I have P divided by R, power divided by resistance, equals I squared. Now to get rid of that square on our current, what we need to do is we need to take the square root of the problem. We're going to look at square root of P divided by R. And that same thing goes when we move into electromotive force. When we got power times resistance equals E squared. Same thing, if we take the square root there, that's going to solve that square for you. Of course, covering all the E's, get all your formulas for electromotive force. And last but not least, getting all your formulas for resistance by covering the R. This is an easy way to remember Ohm's Law. If you tell the story, repeat the story a couple times before you know it, you'll have it. The important thing is making sure that you practice it. If you don't practice it, you'll lose it.